Hello there. What is going on, everyone? We are live and we are talking Star Wars Legion today. It's stream day. It's news day. And it's an exciting time. There's going to be all of the rest of the updated cards are supposed to go live today. I think they're going to talk about some of them. I definitely have certain things that I am interested in finding out what the future holds for, and I'm wondering, what you guys are interested in. What is going on? The Legion Bros are here in the chat. What's going on, Aiden? What's going on, Evil Bear Skirmish? We've got a lot of people in chat right now. Make sure you share this out. We're gonna do some giveaways too. Every 100 viewers we get, we'll add more giveaways. So. We're going to start off. I'm going to let you guys right now. We're going to start off with a Star Wars Legion Obi-Wan Kenobi promo card. Boom. It is not translucent, by the way, even though it looks like you can see, the Star Destroyer through the background. It's just there's a little bit of green in there. But we're going to give one of those away during the stream. And yeah, we're gonna have a good time today. We've got about a half an hour until AMG's stream launches. Now that's going to be over on their twitch.tv channel over at Atomic Mass Games is the name of their channel. If you wanted to watch on Twitch, you can do that. You can watch with me. You can do both if you want. I will be switching over to the AMG stream once they go live. What's going on, James? Always wash your stocks and kick dirt on it. What's going on, Benjamin and Rect and Matt? What is going on, everybody? Welcome. So I think one of the cool things about having a watch party for this is we can kind of talk about what are some of our predictions. I want you guys to let me know some of your predictions down in the chat. I have four. Four predictions. I believe that they're going to announce or reveal something that's going to upset some people. I predict they're going to predict something that's going to get a lot of people excited. I think they're going to disappoint with some things, and I think some things will be kind of predictable. I think it's going to be a combination of all four of those. So I know those are vague predictions. There's some more specific ones, but those are easier ones to kind of start off with. They have already said that some things are going away. Not much. They want to try to keep as much of it as they can in this new edition, but some things could not make the cut. And I think that that's reasonable. And it doesn't mean that stuff that's going away is going away forever. Although it may be the case. I've heard some rumors. I've heard rumors of things that are going away. And I've heard, again, I don't know if they're true or not. I guess we'll wait and see. I've heard that there may be some pressure by Lucasfilm to make some changes. Some things that they didn't think should be in this game may be coming out. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. Again, rumors aren't always something that you should put too much stock in. But I will be interested to see, if certain things that aren't on the reprint schedule. And there's a lot of stuff that's not on the reprint schedule. There's some of that I'm curious if it's going to happen. Does this drop in 30 minutes? About 30 minutes. Yes, Andrew Lynch, that's correct. That is absolutely correct. I'm going to try to get to all of your questions, but I definitely want to hear those predictions. Let's get to a couple of them. Llama Excellence says, "May the Gungans be with you." I'm not predicting Gungans. For this one. It's been made clear to me that every time we ask for Gungans, they push them back even farther. So I don't think we're going to see Gungans. I think that's just the way of things. You know what I think is a remote possibility, not super likely right here, but I wonder if they will tease potentially doing sequel factions. Like First Order and stuff like that. I wonder. That's something that I wonder about. I don't know. I don't imagine that would do too well. And I think that they would have tried to put those in Shatterpoint first because they can just put a couple of isolated heroes. They could test the waters a little bit easier. But I'm curious about that. And the thing is, I I see Rect is not happy with that idea. It's one of those things that I'm curious. It's not something I'm clamoring for. Again, I feel like there hasn't been anything new with the sequel factions. And I almost wonder if like Disney's backing off of that a little bit. I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell. But if they were to, again, I'll say I think First Order would work better than Resistance. I don't think Resistance really works as a faction in Legion. First Order has a whole standing army, so they potentially would. And so then it would be weird to do just one faction from an expansion. Maybe you do a battle force that's like a mix of rebels and resistance. And so you can do resistance that way. I don't know. I don't expect them to be announcing a whole lot of new stuff at all in this stream, though. I think the purpose of this stream is to talk about the new card rebalances, maybe point costs, but also any outstanding rules changes that didn't make it in the first pass. There was some speculation I've seen that they may change moves, how moving works. Specifically the interactions and limitations and differences between what a standard move is, a move action, and then a speed X move. And what can, some things can trigger things, some things can't trigger things, and that. They may simplify that a little bit. I've seen that prediction. I don't know if that's true or not, but I've just seen people predicting that. Sometimes, again, there's enough people that play test and that leak things, and stuff always gets leaked. But sometimes things get leaked, and then those things come out in the format of a prediction that people have. So it's always hard to tell whether a prediction is an actual leak or just a true, just a stone cold prediction or what. Aiden says, I'm extremely on the fence about major rule changes being present here. Others who have interviewed AMG staff has said there won't be any major upsets. Yeah, it's interesting. I wouldn't put any stock in that because, well, I wouldn't put much stock in that. And the reason I say that is because something that doesn't upset you might not upset somebody else. For example, in my case, my best friend Sean tends to play Jin and Pathfinders, and I noticed Pathfinders weren't on the reprints. And so if Pathfinders are gone, Sean might not have an army anymore. I might not have somebody to play Legion with anymore. That could completely, have a huge shift in my Legion play experience, right? Whereas Pathfinders aren't that popular amongst like the tournament crowds and the discords and stuff like that. So what one person thinks wouldn't be a major change might be massively major for someone else. So again, that's why I'm like, we'll have to wait and see. But yes, Paul says, hopefully the Empire is improved. I wouldn't be surprised if Riot Troopers got a little bit of a change. They should be getting a new card update. They were like I think they were the last expansion in the old card style. But yeah. Michael Manker says, I think the sequel stuff would fit better in Shatterpoint. Yeah, a lot of it works a little bit better in Shatterpoint. At least, when you have limited stuff. It's always hard to try to put new content, like a new faction or something like that, into a game when it's still being developed. So one of the reasons why X-Wing kind of struggled when trying to create like Force Awakens content for X-Wing, when they didn't have a good depth, or they hadn't even seen the first movie yet. So they were just coming up with generic terms for all these X-Wing pilots. They didn't know how good Poe was supposed to be, so they made him like not the best pilot in the, and so all of this weird stuff. So but still, even now, after we've seen all three movies, there really hasn't been much else. You had that show Resistance that had a little bit of extra content. But like, if you look at like original trilogy stuff, we've had, when they started making Legion and X-Wing and all this stuff, you had like 20 years, 30 years of like time to just look at all of this stuff and be like, oh, okay, well, we had all these books and all this other stuff, and this is popular, this is not, this is the balance. There's been all these video games and audio dramas and so on and so forth. You have a whole lot of depth into that. And it was, I don't think the sequel trilogy is there yet. certain things like the Ahsoka show and the Mandalorian and the Bad Batch have been kind of building up to like an Heir to the Empire sort of cloning storyline, which hopefully fills in some of the gaps for episode 9 and stuff like that. And so I feel like we'll get there at some point, but I just don't think we have the depth enough to do like a whole balanced factions and war game stuff for the sequel trilogy yet. And again, and if they were to do that, I think you could only do the First Order. They had enough background. They had a big old standing army. But I don't know if they're going to do that. That's why Shatterpoints just works better for that. But again, I don't think they're going to announce anything new. It's possible if they do have anything, it'll be just like a slight teaser or a hint. I do think it's possible we might see new battle forces announced, because that would kind of come in the format of like a rules update, because it would be PDF stuff that they could just drop on their website. And since they're going to be dropping new cards, I do expect a Rogue One battle force. That's one of my predictions, is a Rogue One battle force, since they had Jyn and Cassian on there, and Pathfinders aren't on the reprint. I don't think they'd be getting rid of Pathfinders, although some things have been said that they're getting out. Jake the Snake is asking what time the live stream starts. It's supposed to be starting at 2 p.m. Eastern, which is in about 25 minutes from now. And so this is the watch party, so you can watch along with us. We're at almost 100 viewers. It's time for a giveaway, and then maybe another one once we break that. We're at 99. Make sure you share this with your groups and in your Discords and in your Facebook groups and your social medias and all of that stuff too, to help us get more. We're over 100. Let's go ahead and do this giveaway, and we'll throw the next one up. Go ahead and drop a hashtag hello there to win this Obi-Wan Kenobi promo. And I will pick somebody in here in just a few minutes, and I'll let you know what our next giveaway is. Our next giveaway, since we're doing a bonus one. Ooh, it's another Legion. We're going to do a bunch of Legion giveaways today. Mandalorian Resistance promo. We got Mandalorian Resistance. Look at this cool art. This is super cool stuff. So we're going to give those away. We got a lot of hello there's coming up. And every 100 viewers, we're going to do another giveaway. And I'll do some patron giveaways also, which is a fun one. Plus, you can jump in our Discord. We do giveaways in there all the time. We might even do a bonus giveaway in Discord, which is a super fun one. So yes, while this is going on, I'm going to pick a winner in just a minute. If you are just joining us, we are going to be getting all of the rules updates and new cards from everything from Atomic Mass Games today. This stream is in about just over 20 minutes. I'll be switching over. Don't worry, I'm not going to talk through it. If they have technical difficulties, or if there's like a break in the stream or something like that, I'll switch back and I'll talk to you. But we can just watch together, and and you can watch over there as well. If you want to head over to their Twitch channel, you can also watch there. I don't believe they're taking questions though. I don't know how much community interacting they're going to be. I'm also curious, and let me know what you guys think, if they're going to announce a mini extravaganza today, because they a lot of times they'll do this type of stuff, like big Legion news and announcements during mini extravaganza, and they're still like, it usually happens in the summer, like around July-ish, September, somewhere in there, and they have not announced it yet. So I'm curious if they're still doing those or if there has been a change. All right, we're going to go ahead and choose. And our winner here is going to be Shadow Metroid. Congratulations, Shadow Metroid. Go ahead and shoot me an email at mailcrabbok@gmail.com, and please tell me what you've won, because we're going to do multiple giveaways, and I don't want to send you the wrong thing. Tell me what you won. You have won the Obi-Wan Kenobi card, the Shadow Metroid. If you did not win, don't worry, we're doing more. We're also doing a Mandalorian Resistance giveaway, and there may be some stuff at the end of the stream where we may drop something in Discord, as well as if you're a patron, there's going to be more giveaways. Plus, there's early access to battle reports and stuff like that. Plus, we'll be trying to build some new lists after this new rules update. I have been trying to plan out some Star Wars Legion battle reports, trying to get some more Legion games in, but I didn't want to do it just yet. I've been holding off for a little bit, waiting for the new rules, because I didn't want to. It's hard to try to learn a new rule set when you have the old rule set in your head. That can be challenging. It can be very challenging. So congratulations to Shadow Metroid. Yeah, but make sure you also give me your shipping information, like your address, so I can mail this to you, because this will be coming via the mail. And some folks don't actually know their actual mailing address or the way that they give it to me. Sometimes it's a little weird. I've had some people be like, oh, well, I'm in London. I'm like, okay, well, what's your address? Well, I'm on Bleecker Street. I'm like, okay, well, what's your address? Well, the address is 123, I'm like, no, what? I need, just give me your, like, have you ever gotten a piece of mail before? What's written on there? And it's strange that I have to say that, but I guess it's a generational thing, because like we used to have, when I was little, we used to have classes where we actually had to practice writing envelopes and things like that. So, yeah. Sorry, dog started barking. Had to mute the mic for a second. But yes, so, all right, let's see. Let's get back to predictions. I see Chris says, if Death Troopers come down in points, I'll be a happy man. Death Trooper, I haven't run Death Troopers in a long time. I remember running them a lot with Krennic when they first came out. I think, points is one of those things that can go up and down all the time. They're looking at points like twice a year. So this is going to probably be a time where we'll see points. I think November, we can probably expect another points rebalance. And that one will probably be significant, because if we're getting all of these new cards and rules and stuff, there's going to be, the wider community is going to be playing this new version of Legion probably for the first time here very soon. And that's going to be interesting to me too, is like, we've already gotten a lot of what is the new Star Wars Legion. The not an edition. I think they're kind of getting away from that whole we can't call it an edition thing, because it's clearly a new edition with new artwork and, new game components, some old game components no longer having function, and that's not necessarily, it's not the boogeyman of terms, the fact that it's a new edition. It's a standard thing that's happening, and I think it's a good thing, because it's a reinvestment into the game. It's a breath of fresh air into the game. Somebody at Adepticon told me is that you have to kind of understand, and this was just another fan, this wasn't like a game company's rep or whatever, but they said, any Star Wars game has a lifespan. Most tabletop games have a lifespan, but Star Wars games especially have a lifespan. It kind of goes into a video I made a couple of weeks ago about how Star Wars games only have so much stuff that's commercially recognizable. And it's a lot of stuff, but there's a finite amount of things that are going to be popular on the shelf that people are going to walk by, recognize, and say, "Oh, I know that." There's a limited number of those things before you have to dig into the deep cuts and the things that are more obscure and the things that don't sell as well. And so that is part of what gives them a lifespan. But on top of that, there's only so much game development you can do. Not every game is going to turn into Magic the Gathering, where it's constantly getting new stuff, 5 times a year for 30 years. It's unrealistic to expect, that. I think what's more realistic is to expect, maybe 15, maybe 10 to 15, somewhere in there. And if that's the case, Legion has a long way to go. It could go longer by doing new editions. This does mean reprinting certain things. That's one of the reasons why Warhammer is still going. They have new editions every 3 years. They have a formula to it. They'll do reprints. They'll do new sculpts. You can still run the old sculpts as long as you put them on the, the right base, if the base sizes change and things like that. And I think that's a successful formula to keep a game going forever. I don't know if AMG plans on doing new editions every X number of years. I think it wouldn't be, I personally wouldn't have a problem with that. Again, it's just, to me, that's a way to continually reinvest. And maybe that's something that they'll think about doing. I don't think every 3 years needs to happen. Maybe every 5 or even 10. Maybe somewhere in between. Maybe you split the difference. Maybe every 7 years you look at doing a new edition, like a refresh. And maybe changing up sculpts on some things where you think it's needed or so, whatever. Speaking of sculpts, I don't know if you guys watched my live stream of the coverage from Adepticon or if you caught it, but one of the small things that was said briefly when they talked about a refresh schedule is that not everything would be in hard plastic. Some things would still have to be, for now, some things would still be in soft plastic. And when I heard that, I was thinking, wow, that's really good. It's really good. It's not optimal, but it's a concession for the greater good, and I think it's a great idea. Either you don't want certain things to just be out of print for 5 years until you can finally get around to making that thing. Just use the sculpts you already have, use the molds you already have for those critical path expansions, for those things that you just couldn't get into hard plastic just yet. At least you get them on the shelf. At least you don't have to worry about, oh, this player couldn't win that tournament because he couldn't get that item because it hasn't been printed in 5 years. And I think that that's the right call to make. It's a smart call. Of course, it's suboptimal because you don't have all the factory production in the world. So that's a thing. It's an interesting thing. All right, I'm going to get to some more of you guys' questions. All right, let's see. Reality tells lies. I know it won't happen, but a Commander operative bundle for Plo Koon and Kit Fisto would be nice. That would be nice. I'd like to see a lot more Jedi. I'd like to see Mace Windu in this game. I'd like to see a lot more Jedi. That would be very cool. Although the fact that we have some like customizable Jedi now, if you've seen the ARF Troopers, you have a little bit of it there. You have the custom Commander, the custom Jedi, that sort of thing. That's also a very cool thing and kind of helps maybe fill in the gaps a little bit, and also could give you a rule set or a way to play with if you had like a 3D printed Mace Windu or something like that, and you wanted to kind of make it work, you could customize one that maybe fits that play style a little better. I think that could be really fun. So yeah, I'm curious how that is all going to work. But yes, Shadow Metroid says, yeah, no problem. I definitely know my address. Excellent. No, that's funny. All right. Were fleet troopers removed? Tabletop Admiral doesn't show them. That's a really good question. I'll be honest with you. I don't have the list in front of me of everything that is not on the refresh schedule, although I don't believe that fleet troopers will be removed. They may just be getting changed a little bit. Maybe they hadn't announced them yet. Maybe they're going to be part of a new bundle or something like that. To me, if it were up to me, I wouldn't have included Rebel troopers in the new core set. And it's a purely visual thing. I just don't like the look of the Rebel troopers, even though these new sculpts look amazing and the alien heads look awesome and all of that stuff. Like, they look like they could be great. I just don't like the concept of Rebel troopers being something I've never seen before, right? Like, you have Rebel commandos, which look like the guys on Endor. The Rebel troopers, if they're also the guys on Endor, that was all just one unit. So it's like you just cut one unit in half and said, these guys are special forces and these guys are core, but they all look so similar. This was an aesthetic thing for me. And so what I would have done is I would have chosen fleet troopers to be the default core unit, because those are the first rebels, the first fighting rebels you see. Those are the first infantry, the first grunts. Those are your rebel core, in my opinion. You also see guys with those same helmets on Yavin and like patrols and sentries and stuff like that. Like, that's the rebels stormtrooper equivalent, in my opinion. So like, that's what I want to see. Like, if they get rid of fleet troopers, I think that really hurts the eye candy ability of this game. Again, to me, the Rebel troopers are like a made-up thing that you just don't ever see on screen, because I'm under the assumption that the strike team on Endor was an elite group, so therefore they were all special forces. So when have we ever seen a Rebel trooper ever in live action? I mean, maybe in the comic books, So, yeah, fleet troopers were also the default trooper in Imperial Assault. There you go. Imperial Assault, man, I had so much fun with that. Okay. Will AMG announce delays due to the trade war? I don't know if they're going to talk much about that. I am planning a video to talk about that. It's there's a lot to say, but the thing is, a lot of people are already saying it. Needless to say, I do expect prices to go up across the board. And the really bad news about that whole thing is that once prices go up, they're not coming back down. So once if I'm a manufacturer, this is just the way greed works and the way our planet works, unfortunately. If I'm a manufacturer and I'm now forced to double this product that sells for $100, I now have to charge $200 because of tariffs. If the tariffs go away, but people are still buying my product for $200, like, I'm not gonna just be like, oh, guess what? This product now goes down to $100. Because for a little, as soon as I realize, oh, I'm making $100 extra in profit for every single sale, what incentive do I have to? I mean, I might drop it a little bit. I might drop it down to like 170, 165, maybe even 149.99. But it's not going back down to 100 because I could cite all the operating costs that the tariffs then I have to recount. I'm just saying, like, I don't envision prices ever coming down, and it's really a shame because AMG, nobody in the gaming industry is to blame for these tariffs, but they came out so aggressively with these really low prices for these core sets, and it was like, wow, these are the lowest prices I've ever seen. This is going to be an amazing thing to get people into Star Wars Legion. People who are on a budget now can really afford to get a 600-point army for cheaper than they've ever done it before, and they're the brand new sculpts, and they're beautiful, and it's going to be awesome, so on and so forth. And then this stuff happens. It shoots that whole initiative right in the foot. Of course, it is also going to affect everybody else across the board, unless, of course, you're homegrown. If you're a company that makes all of your stuff here in the United States, for example, and this is just for people who are watching in the United States, well, what's stopping you from also raising your prices? If all your competitors have now had to double their price, what's to say you don't just double your price also, or maybe make it like not quite double, just price it like, $1 less than everything else, and now you still have the cheapest product on the market, but yeah, so I don't know, it's going to affect everybody, and that's why I don't think AMG is going to talk about that with too much specificity today, because it's not an issue that's unique to them, but I do expect them to talk about it at some point, but yeah. But I don't think they'll go into too much detail. I think if you do get anything from them, it's going to be very non-committal, very like, well, something's going to probably have to happen. At some point, once they've established what a new price might have to be, again, I do expect all prices to go up, not just for them, but for all games, then I'm sure that will happen. But yes, let's see. Fleet Troopers are on the refresh schedule, says Stormwalker. Thank you. Thank you for that. Again, I didn't have that open in front of me. Just if you're just joining us, we are almost at 200 viewers. Once we pass 200 viewers, we're going to do the second giveaway. We've already given away an Obi-Wan Kenobi. We're currently doing a Mandalorian Resistance, and we're going to do another one if we for every 100 viewers we get. So make sure you're sharing this video with your groups, your social medias, your and all of that good stuff. If we get to 300, I'll sweeten the pot even more with a surprise. You'll see. So yes, but some pretty cool stuff. There might even be a mini crab show up at some point. You never know. There might be a mini crab sighting. Let's go ahead and let's get to some more of you guys' comments. Let's see. Pathfinders, some people talking about Pathfinders. Yeah, that's one of my big questions is I don't know if they would get rid of Pathfinders. If they're reworking Jyn and Cassian, and I guess Jyn seems like she's been nerfed tremendously, but I haven't seen her new command cards yet. Of course, that's a big part of it. She's still a Courage 3 commander, it looks like. And so, but she's lost Danger Sense, which was one of the, at least in my games, was one of her biggest assets, because you could give her duck and cover, and if you didn't kill her in the first shot, it was going to be very, very difficult to ever kill her. We need a live sock reveal. You want to know something? I actually ordered socks from a company called Spring. We used to be known as Teespring, and I had a merchandise store with them, and they had socks on there. I don't like to diss companies very much, but they have screwed. I'm on the process of having to file a complaint with my credit card company, because it's been months and they're just ignoring me at this point. They've not printed or shipped anything. They told me that they shipped it a month ago. Their status page says it hasn't even printed yet. So like they're just lying, and it's a shame because they advertised that they could do custom socks, and I was gonna have custom socks that say always wash your socks. It was gonna be a cool thing, and I was really excited about that. So I may have to talk to somebody. Well, we're over 200 viewers. Thank you, Stormwalker. All right, it's time for a giveaway. We've got Mandos. Give me a hashtag. This is the way if you would like to win the Mandalorian Resistance promo card, doubled up on the back. Look at that beautiful artwork on there. Hashtag this is the way. And while you guys are doing that, I'm gonna pick a winner here in a moment. We are going to jump into, okay, this is gonna be a beautiful one. This one's gonna be beautiful. Oh yes, we're gonna do Clone Commandos for the next one. This one I will probably not have time to announce right now. It's a cool one. We're also going to do a foil Ahsoka. This one is going to be on Patreon. So look at that foil Ahsoka. This one's going to go over to Patreon. So patrons will have a shot at the foil Ahsoka. But yes, all right. So, but our next winner for the Clone Commandos, they'll announce that one after the stream. And then if we get any higher, we'll add more to that as well. If we cross 300, which is super cool. Give me my foil Vader. Look at you guys. Okay. Winner is Stephen Taylor. Congratulations, Stephen Taylor. All you got to do is, for the Mandalorian Resistance, shoot me an email at mailcrabbok@gmail.com. Give me your full shipping address so I can mail this out to you. And congratulations. If you guys did not win, there's going to be more opportunities to win, and also more opportunities over on Patreon and possibly Discord as well. We do giveaways all the time too. Thank you guys for participating, and we're going to be starting the stream very soon. AMG is getting ready. They are getting ready to go live, and once they do, I'll be swapping over, just like this. I'll be swapping over. I will not be talking through it. We're going to do the watch party. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. What's going on, Ken? We've got Ion Radio in the house. Yeah, Ken says, thanks for doing this. I can't use Twitch at work. This is one of the reasons why I started doing this, is because there was Fantasy Flight once upon a time used to stream via YouTube. And then when at a certain point they started, at a certain point they stopped. And that was a very funny thing, because once they stopped doing that, they started doing it on Twitch. I couldn't watch anymore. So, and I was like, how many other people are kind of like me in that regards? So that's a funny thing. But yeah, how is it going, Crabbok? Am I excited? I'm cautiously optimistic. I am kind of excited for new stuff. I'm excited to start playing Legion again. I haven't played in a while because of the way all the new rules have been, and I was like, all right, well, they have more new rules coming. So if I feel like I'm going to have to sit down and relearn the intricacies, because again, if I'm going to be doing battle reports and stuff like that, every little rules mistake that I make gets exaggerated and highlighted, and so it's hard. Granted, regardless of that, I'm still going to make mistakes. It is always inevitable. But yes. So keep sharing. If we cross 300 viewers, we will also do even more. We'll have an extra surprise for that. We'll do additional giveaways. No, I don't think any AT-ATs will be announced. I don't think so. Yeah. Although that would be fun. They may, I think, towards the end, when they conclude, there may be a little tease of something else coming. But I'm not. I mean, I'm through. I'm done predicting Gungans for at least a year. I think the only way for them to actually happen. I think the only way for that to happen is if I stop. This is what it's going to look like. They're just about ready, and I will be. I'll be switching over as soon as they are ready to go. No Darth Jar Jar. No, I don't think so. I don't think we're going to see a Darth Jar Jar. Do you think they will nerf ATRTs? I don't know how strong ATRTs are in the current meta. I know they were strong when the game was brand new. I used to run 3 ATRTs, and I used to run like 14 activations when the game was very young. And just for holding objectives and having armor, they were strong. But armor has changed a lot. Cover has changed a lot. It's very interesting. It's very interesting how all of that is going to work. But yes, so we'll have to wait and see. Let's see. This a lot of folks there. What else is new? What are you guys hoping to see? What are you guys hoping to see? I want to know. Let me down in the comments section. I did hear some people talking about Empire buffs. Hoth scenario would be in line. They did say there was going to be a focus on Hoth. Of course, you can kind of see that with the probe droids and all of the the new Tauntauns. The new Tauntauns look good. Vulture droid. I think Luke Eddy hinted. It was either Alex Davey or Luke Eddy. They talked about wanting to do Vulture droids once upon a time. That was a really interesting thing. Wookiee and Mando love. I would love to see a Mandalorian battle force. I would love to see more Wookiees. There's certain things that were always weird to me, and I'm pretty sure it was a licensing thing. Like, why do we have Tarful in the game, but he's not called Tarful? Stuff like that was always weird to me. Definitely Pathfinders. I'm predicting a Rogue One battle force. That's one of the big things I'm predicting. I'm predicting we'll see Pathfinders in some different format. I also think Baze and Chirrut from Rogue One should come to the game, and one of the ways that they could have come to the game is as an option for like a 2-part operative, or also the option to kind of go into a Pathfinder unit and lead a Pathfinder unit as like a 2 miniature heavy. We've seen 2 miniatures already, that can go in for a single upgrade. So, yeah, an Order 66 battle force, isn't that the 501st? Kind of. I don't know. Isn't that the 501st? Well, except I guess Ahsoka.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the April 2025 developer update for Star Wars Legion. I'm here with my fabulous fellow developer folk, Will Pagani.
Hello.
And Andrew Durson.
How's it going, guys?
So for those who have stumbled across this stream, welcome. Weird that you did that, but let me give you a rundown of what we'll be doing today. Today is going to be part 1 of our twice yearly developer update, where we're going to talk about all of the things concerning Star Wars Legion. This one, of course, is a big one. If you watched the roadmap video or presentation during Adepticon, you know that today is the day where we're going to be dropping all of the updated cards for Star Wars Legion, which we began last year with the 2.6 stuff at Mini Stravaganza in 2024. And today we complete that journey with everything updated in the new format, in the multilingual stuff and all of that, setting us up for the release of those cards in physical printed formats coming this August. Currently is the expected date for those, where you'll be able to get the real versions if print and play is not your style. If print and play is your style, you're going to have everything today ready to go with all of the stuff that's going to be coming out later this year in the starter boxes, in those card backs, and everything else. In addition to talking about the last remaining rebalanced units, of which there are not that many, as we've mentioned many times, the vast majority of them were completed last year in order to give players all of the cool stuff up front to be able to play with and enjoy and take a look at. We do have some characters we're going to talk about today, 3 of which were previewed at Adepticon. We have 2 more added to that pile, and that will take us through that section. We also have a big update to the core rulebook in terms of little things. I say it's big because it is quite sweeping in terms of the language changes and updates that we've done. All this stuff bringing us into a brand new edition for the game. So if you're getting used to calling it 2.6 or anything like that, you don't have to call it that anymore. You can just call it Legion because that's where we're at now. We're resetting the clock and everything is back to square, normal, 0, reset to 0, right?
It's a clean
Something
slate.
like that. Clean slate. I like clean slate. So, of course, with that moment and the new starters coming, we wanted to take this opportunity to really dive in, clean up all of the rules language, make consistent styles, fix some things that were causing confusion or issues, and all that. We're going to talk all about that stuff as well today. So, with that, let's go ahead and just dive into style and language changes.
Yeah, so as Schick said, part of one of the big things of this Legion refresh was we went through the rulebook and we created a new style guide for Legion. So a new kind of way of templating language and phrasing rules and mechanics to make things a little bit more clear and uniform. So as part of this, we did a language pass, and we rewrote every single card in the game to conform to this new style guide. So we've got this Grievous 2-pip Supreme Commander card on the screen because this is a very good example of some of these new elements from the style guide. So you notice there's some new changes. For example, character and unit names now are bolded for ease of recognition. Keywords are going to be in the keyword style. Some game terms like round, order, trooper have been capitalized for easier recognition. Icons are now used in the game text when applicable. So things like your courage value, your range, things like that have been pulled on the cards just to make it a little bit easier to read everything. You'll also notice one of the big changes as part of this language pass is at, within, and beyond have been changed to within, completely within, and not within. And I know Schick and Pagani, you all have talked about this in varying podcasts and stuff, but the reason we did this was to just kind of make it the definition of these words in the game rules kind of more conform with their, normal English definitions.
Yeah, when we are looking at language and how to portray rules, right, we see what questions pop up inside the Discords, inside the Facebooks, inside of all these different communities and stuff. And we saw a lot of it says at. What does that mean? Like, is it just at the end of the template, or is it the whole range band or thing? Like, well, actually, it's neither. It's all of this stuff. And then you'll also notice that another big one that comes up all the time is how long does this command card last? There's no duration here. So another big part of the language pass was adding
timing
clauses and durations onto all the effects of the game. So between those two things, hopefully we can remove a lot of the questions on that kind of stuff, and then we can also bring clarity for when things happen, how they happen, all that kind of stuff that fits directly into the timing charts inside the rule books and things like that. So really hoping for a lot of clarity here, a lot of concise language, a lot of similar language, so things that do similar things will always use the same templating and things like that. Whereas this may not necessarily be as exciting as unit changes, which we will get to soon. It is a very important thing to have done and to do in all of this.
So let's talk, before we dive into the reworked units, which of course is what everyone wants to see, let's talk a bit more about the rest of the rulebook changes that you're going to get in the core rules update that's going to go live right after this panel. So we have a quick slide that's just going to give you a quick overview of the ones that we're going to touch on. These are the biggest ones. Of course, the language pass also has some little bits of touches on everything else. So let's start with area terrain is getting revamped and revitalized. A big thing that we talked about is wanting to see more area terrain used on tables. However, the previous rules and how area terrain functioned made it so that it was really not a pleasant thing for players to kind of suss through and determine and those kinds of things. And also didn't add a lot of value to tabletops in general. So there's been some pretty big adjustments there to make area terrain something that we're going to see more. As war gamers, we love area terrain. It's some of the coolest terrain that you can have on the table. Making sure that it functioned well was important. So there's some talk us through how area terrain has been adjusted.
Yeah, so as Schick said, the rules before were kind of intended as kind of a catch-all for whatever kind of area terrain you wanted, and they worked very well for some things, and then for other things, it got kind of unintuitive. So we've cleaned up area terrain for clarity. Now the kind of footprint or the base of the area terrain blocks, it still has a silhouette, for the height of the terrain, but it now blocks the line of sight through it. And units can see into and out of it, right? So if you have a piece of area terrain, between two units, they can't see through it, but they can see units that are inside it, and units inside can see out of it. It gives you cover. This will be a little bit more intuitive and clear, and kind of, be a more blanket rule that will work with whatever kind of area terrain that you come up with to put on your battlefield.
Yeah, between forests, ruins, wrecked vehicles, all the cool things that we often think about that belong on a battlefield for a war game.
Right.
We want to be able to see that as well. So we're excited about those changes. And then, of course, on that list, we had command, hand, and orders. This is a specific one. You saw it a little bit with Ahsoka Tano with her reveal at Adepticon, where all of a sudden these command cards had Ahsoka Tano, Padawan Commander. If I'm getting those two, I want to say Padawan Commander, Padawan Commander. I got it. I'm there. I'm only on three cups of coffee. I need 3 more at least to be able to function.
Goodness.
And then how that differentiates her from the Rebels version of Ahsoka. This is going to become a thing that is now clarified in the rules. And there is an adjustment to 2 command cards currently that exist. I'll let you talk about that and kind of what the goal is. Pagani, if you want to talk a little bit about that for what's going on.
Yeah, so we've just kind of expanded the command hand and the issuing orders rules a little bit to kind of make way for, okay, so what happens if you want to have a command card that is for, more than one unique character? So you're going to see this in the update now that Kalani and Kraken is the name of the unit, right? So now their command cards say Kalani or Kraken on them. So we just kind of expanded the rules to, allow for that opportunity, or situations, in the future we could have like a, 2 characters kind of having like a team up card. So it would be like this character and this character, which would require both. So we've just kind of tweaked the rules to kind of open that design space. One of the other things that Shik said we want to talk about with the command cards is going forward when, especially, when we have things like Luke and Han on the horizon, we're going to be seeing a lot more of new versions of existing characters. And one of the things that we're going to do with these new versions of characters is their new command cards won't necessarily always be for all the previous versions. So you're going to see with Luke and Han, for example, some of their command cards are kind of siloed to that iteration of the character. And applying that retroactively, you're going to see that 2 of Operative Luke's command cards, You Serve Your Master Well and I Am a Jedi, are now restricted to that version of Luke. So you won't be able to take those with Commander Luke. And this opens up the design space for us, because when we make like a new Luke or a new Han or Vader, whoever, right, it means that we don't have to necessarily worry about how this new command card interacts with an old version of the character, and it lets us have more freedom with that new design.
Absolutely. And as you just said, to touch a little bit more on sort of the why here is, well, quite frankly, I Am a Jedi was really, really good on Tauntaun Luke. So we, instead of having to completely bend his design around that and all those different things, because he's obviously much faster because he's on a Tauntaun, we decided to just limit that to the Luke that is a Jedi.
Yeah, and this goes back, we've talked a lot over and over again so many times with the new Legion, the rebalance and everything they're working for, is to see more characters on the table, right? To open up possibilities for players who want to take more of their favorites in their armies. And one of the key things of doing that is obviously mitigating the command card hand. If you feel like you have to take all 6 command cards for a specific character to make them work, that becomes a problem, because it means that you can't take the command cards that you need for your other characters. So being able to put power into the characters and not necessarily have to, as Pagani mentioned, bend design around the fact that a powerful command card exists that previously any version of that character could take, allows us to really dive into the lore of Star Wars, to be able to see multiple iterations of these characters, and to do some very cool things when it comes to future design that we're excited to show you. Let's go ahead and jump to movement. This is a pretty easy one.
Yeah, this is just a very easy quality of life change that I'm sure some people weren't even aware of. But we've altered movement to make sure when you move your unit, you can now move other miniatures in the unit out of the way to move your unit leader. So before, actually, the other grunts in the unit blocked the placement of the unit leader. So now that's just kind of a very small quality of life thing to let you have a little bit more freedom movement to go where your unit leader should be able to go.
And then there was also language updates for standard moves and all that kind of stuff to solidify everything and clarify.
The big ones are reverse and strafe are just now standard moves. I know there's been a lot of confusion in the past of like, well, how does this work with notch bases in particular? Like, which parts of the movement do you ignore? Those have been simplified to just being standard moves.
And then a quick update for line of sight. Arms and legs no longer count for silhouettes of vehicles, and there's a couple other things to go along with that, just to kind of like rein in things.
Sorry, Aqua Droids, your arms and legs no longer block line of sight. The other big one for line of sight is miniatures no longer block line of sight to other miniatures in the same unit. So like if you have speeder bikes or Aqua Droids or something, you can't, one of them does not block line of sight to the other one behind it.
This is another big technical one that probably a lot of people didn't even realize, where you could block line of sight so they could only see one of the speeders and they could only destroy one of the speeders. They couldn't destroy all of them, for example. So once again, just a very technical change that will have not a large impact on the majority of things. We did say that legs do not block line of sight. Correct me if I'm wrong here, though. The silhouette for a ground trooper is still from the top down, so you will Like you can't see
Yes.
between their legs.
Correct.
It's just if your leg is sticking off or
yeah,
up.
yeah.
Or
Like a
something.
crab droid,
Like,
right? Like the crab droid
Yeah,
that
yeah.
has a leg that
Yeah.
comes up
that
a
goes
little
way
bit.
up.
Correct.
So
Goes out.
Yeah, that the leg is
there's
specifically talking about the crab
not a
droid, yeah.
particularly functional change here. I just don't want people to freak out.
Yeah.
Because like, oh my god, you can see through the ATST legs.
Yeah.
No.
Not quite.
And you can't model your ATST like doing something wild. I don't know.
I apologize.
Don't get too
Way
crazy.
out to the
I apologize.
side.
Don't
if I
get too
misspoke.
crazy.
He's doing the splits, right? You get your ATST to do the splits, and then it blocks a lot of stuff. And then we have some updates to keywords. We can walk through those pretty quick.
Yeah, it's just some kind of quality of life things. Cash now works even if the miniature with it is defeated. Kind of another small one is self-destruct is no longer an attack. Now it's just a dice roll that gives out suppression and does wounds depending on what you roll. Tow cable, the air speeder, now can immobilize units potentially.
Sure.
Small has been the small keyword has been rewritten for clarity and about like who can get attacked and who can get removed. And then finally, this kind of dovetails into our reworked units. We've removed some keywords. So contingencies, flawed, and loadout are no longer part of the game. And a new keyword, one step ahead, has been added.
Which we'll get into.
Which we will get into in
Now?
just a second.
And
Now?
it's probably important to also mention that the not necessarily a new unseen keyword, but one that folks have been asking quite a bit about since Adepticon, the Shen Mastery keyword has
Yes.
also been
Will be
added to the
That
book.
will be
So
added, yes.
that burning question will be answered once that document becomes available right after this. So let's do the reworked units. There are 5 big ones that we're going to cover. They're all characters, and they're all characters from Rebels and Empire. There are some minor reworks on various units, mostly concerning their weapon ranges,
Yeah, there's a
and a couple other minor things.
there's a couple of instances where if you've been if you're familiar with the last update, or Callus is a good example here. There's some units where if they had like a different melee weapon and a shorter range attack, it kind of just got condensed into one weapon. But yeah.
But overall, those reworks are minor. We're not really going to go over them because they'd be very quick. Like, look at the card; it does this.
Right.
We wanted to really focus on these last 5 big rebalances. We're going to talk about these. We're going to talk about their command card changes, and just dive into it. So let's go ahead and just start with Jin.
Yeah, so with Jin, obviously she is now an operative instead of a commander. With Jin, we wanted to make a really cheap and short range kind of like harasser, disruptor type skirmishing character to kind of like fit in with her. She's just kind of going around causing mayhem like she does in the movie. So independent move plus disengage here is really like the highlights of her kit. It makes her very hard to pin down. It also triggers her Agile 1, so she can get a dodge token to spin with Nimble, which can make her pretty tanky, especially if she's got cover. So she's just kind of running around, causing mayhem everywhere. The infiltrate means that she gets to go where she wants in round 1 to cause maximum disruption. We've tweaked some of her command cards a bit.
Yeah, Pagani can actually walk us through those if you want to.
Oh.
Since you've got them on your screen, that's why we all have computers. Fancy.
Is that why?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I Rebel was updated too. I will just read
Renamed and updated, in fact.
Well, there you
According to this document here in front of me.
Brilliant.
So unless
her
Dursum's
one pip
telling
is now
tales out of
I
school.
Rebel. I Rebel? I don't know. Jyn Urso gains charge during her next activation, and once this round, when an enemy unit within range 2 and line of sight of Jyn Urso starts its activation before its rally step, Jyn Urso may gain 1 suppression token. If she does, she may make a free move action and then may make a free attack action. So it kind of gives her her independent move, right? Because if she does stuff, then you can get that kind of thing. And it really gives her that, like, she's getting the jump on people. So I really like this card because it makes it very unpredictable when you're going to play it and how she's going to do in that turn and what she's going to do. Because the new sort of theme for Jyn is just unpredictability, awkwardness, being like, how can I manipulate when my moves happen, when my activation happens, when all these things happen to disrupt my opponent as much as possible.
And be a massive pain in the butt, right? Like
Yeah,
that card
yeah.
gives her basically a super standby that you can't get rid of.
Yeah. So it's a very awkward for your opponent to play around, right? And then Rebellions Are Built on Hope is her new 3-pip card, which orders 3 trooper units. Once again, these are all in the document posting here in just a little bit. And is when this unit is issued, or when a unit is issued an order with this card, it may gain 1 suppression token. This round, while an allied trooper unit has a face-up order token, it gains danger sense 2, Indomitable, and cannot be suppressed or panicked.
So that was a complete rework from her old card, Complete the Mission.
And this one I like. You can give danger sense to units that are in trouble. You can help people out. You can get suppression mitigation with Indomitable. And, of course, can't be suppressed or panicked. So, like, there's just a lot going on with this card that sort of shows her inspirational values and stuff that we see in the movie. And it is a very much, like, go time card, I guess. So...
Yeah, it makes you really right. You get the bonuses while you have the face-up card, so makes you very tanky at the beginning of the round before they go, and kind of leans into that kind of flavor with the Rebels of, okay, we just got to hold out a little bit longer, you know, to do what we're going to do, complete the mission, and we might not make it out, but you know, if we get the plans away, we succeeded, kind of right. And Jen is really an example of some kind of a design philosophy that we have for the commanders and operatives of. We really want to like explore this kind of like budget operative territory. Schick talked about like getting more characters on the battlefield, you know, having characters be impactful on their unit cards and not necessarily just like a vehicle to get their command cards in your command hand. And I think Jen is a really good example of that, right? Like even if you don't play her command cards, you can still include her in your army. She's pretty cheap for what she does and get a lot of value out of her.
And I think really depending on how you want to play her is sort of which command cards you're going to pick, right? Because if you're really looking for suppression mitigation, maybe you're going for Rebellions Are Built on Hope. If you're really looking for that sort of super solo situation, maybe you only take I Rebel. Maybe you take both if you're looking for everything. But you have the options and the character can function without a whole bunch of command card plays is sort of the hope there.
All right, let's jump into Lando, who I think probably got the biggest rework of all of these characters,
he's got the
despite
new
all of them
keyword.
getting fancy.
Yeah.
And he does have the new keyword, so go ahead and walk us through that.
So Lando, we really wanted to lean in on kind of like this support aspects while still having some, you know, combat capabilities if he's needed. So he's got steady and he's got long shot on his blaster. He's got a pretty respectable ranged attack with a red and 3 black dice. But his keywords really give him this like support aspect. So he's got Guidance Core Trooper, which is very powerful to give you know, a move or whatever that's needed to the core units around him. He's got Allies of Convenience. Lando's always doing deals. He's got the connections, you know, in the underworld or in business, right? Maybe those are the same.
Same.
He's got this new One Step Ahead keyword, which is exciting. So new One Step Ahead during the command phase, it goes off of the card that you play. So if the card that you play and your opponent play, if the pips match, you get to choose an allied unit to make a speed 1 move. If the pips don't match, the unit that has One Step Ahead, so Lando in this case, gets to make a speed 1 move, right? So it kind of introduces this like mini game of like, all right, I know what I want to play, and I know I'm trying to figure out what my opponent's going to play, and based on that information, if I guess right, you know, or wrong, because maybe you want the move on Lando, right? Or whoever, based on how you guess, and if you guess right, you get a free move out of it. And it just kind of represents Lando like always having an angle, always having a plan. You know, I'm sure this keyword could appear on people in the future for similar type characters.
Planners, if you will.
Planners, if you will. And then he got his command cards got a rework. Pagani, if you'd like to read some of those. We wanted to kind of lean into that like gambler, scoundrel aspect of Lando, and so 2 of these kind of reworked ones have kind of a luck element to them.
For sure. One of the things I want to talk about before we get into what the command cards do specifically with that luck element is that Lando as a gambler is a gambler. He's there to take risks, but he's also always kind of got that backup plan.
Right.
So a lot of the times when we were designing this character, a lot of the things that we talked about were like, well, he's going to take this gamble, and if it goes well, it's great, but if it doesn't go well, he's got a backup.
Right.
So a lot of these have sort of that built into them. So Corellian Spike, 1 pip. It essentially lets you, I'll just read it. As for Lando Calrissian's next activation, he may choose up to 1 enemy unit within range 2 and in line of sight. If he does, roll 2 red attack dice and resolve the effects shown below for each matching result. A blank, they gain 2 immobilized tokens. A hitter surge, they gain 1 immobilized token, and on a crit, Lando gains 2 immobilized tokens. So things can backfire here on poor little Lando, but hopefully it's going to work out. And then it also has a divulge during the setup step. Lando Calrissian gains Infiltrate and Incognito this game.
It's pretty good.
So he can be a sneaky boy, running around doing that kind of stuff. And then he has Ace Up His Sleeve, which is also a 1 pip, but counts as a 2 pip. If this
So
card
already
is,
he's cheating.
He's
already
all about
cheating.
It. He's got it. He's tucked an extra 1 pip
right
in there. If this card is in your command hand during the resolve command card effects step of the command phase, after revealing command cards, but before revealing or resolving command card effects, you may return your revealed command card to your hand and play this card instead. Treat this card as having been selected, played, and revealed instead of the other card.
So this is kind of a nod to the contingencies going away with
Yes.
him being able to swap out one of his cards in that way. Because we did we liked the contingencies idea. We didn't like how it was really implemented in the game, how it had some weird rules oddities and it had a lot of complex language to do something very simple. So we've kind of reimagined that idea, which was really neat, into this command card.
And it is a 1 pip that I want to point out orders 2 units, orders Lando and 1 unit. So you can kind of sneak in with an extra order in there. You do this kind of stuff. You can surprise people with it. So I think there's just a lot of play here. And how that interacts with 1 step ahead is pretty cool. So you can really get all that in there.
I think that's my favorite of his new cards because it's like we said, like he cheats, right? Like he's got a backup plan. He's got the ace up his sleeve and things in case things go sideways, right? You know, he cheats. It gets an extra order. It lets you change the card, and it's an extra 1 pip, right? So it just really captures that flavor.
And then his new 3 pip Idiots Array. Love the name.
Classic Crabbok.
Classic. Until the end of this round, each time an allied unit with a face-up order token makes an attack, if the defending unit is within range 2 and line of sight of Lando Calrissian, and its attack pool contains at least 1 blank, surge and hit result during the reroll dice step. You may change 1 hit and 1 surge to a crit each.
Yeah, so it's basically just a slot machine. If you hit the jackpot, you get to change some results in the attack pool.
And something that I really like about these command cards, we talked about Lando being sort of this gambler, right, is these are very short range, right? Lando has to be within range 2 of things. So that's going to require him to really move up the table. And that's not necessarily where he wants to be because he is more of a supporting commander, but I mean, he can mix it up as well. But it kind of plays with that, like Lando is aggressive. He's out there to win. He's out there to do these things. He's willing to put himself on the line, and he's willing to take the risk of that aggressive play. So I think it gives a really good flavor for the unit, and it's just really, really cool.
All right, let's move on to Cassian Andor. Cassian also has moved from the commander slot to the operative slot, though he did pick up field commander.
He did, yeah. So he can be your commander if he has to be.
There's a couple of other changes, specifically his loadout is gone now, as reflected on his card itself. So go ahead and just talk about everything here.
So I think Cassian is the one that has kind of the fewest changes. Obviously, he's now an operative instead of commander, but he has field commander, so he can still kind of be one. He's still got the 280, so those upgrade cards will be in the print and play that gets posted. And he just has infiltrate on the card instead of it being tied to covert ops. And he doesn't have loadout. And just simplifying the weapons to be, he has to equip the A280. He's got like a backup blaster on the card. Were really the only changes to him. He stayed pretty much the same for the most part. And his command cards
and
also
no
stayed the
changes
same.
to his command cards
Yeah,
because they were doing what we wanted. All right, we're going to jump to Iden next. Similar to Cassian, not a ton going on here, but some not insignificant changes as well.
Yeah, very similar to Iden. We just kind of simplified how her weapons work with the absence of loadout. So now she just gets to pick between the DL-20A sniper rifle or the TL-50 repeater just on the card. She also gained Sharpshooter 1 as well, and she's got Infiltrate on the card, given that she doesn't have Covert Ops anymore. Her command cards also stayed the same. She can also take ID-10, right? ID-10 is not going away. Her command cards stayed the same, except for Tactical Strike had a very minor change of instead of ordering her and 3 trooper units, it's now her and 2 trooper units to bring the power level down on that card just a little bit.
All right, and then another in contention with Lando for the biggest rework is Callus. Not only do we have all the changes on his card, he also got updates to 2 of his command cards as well.
He did.
So let's just walk through all that stuff.
Yeah, so kind of similar to Jin, we wanted to reimagine him as kind of this Empire middle management character, which is kind of an archetype that you're going to see, spoiler, especially with the custom build your own commanders and operatives that are coming later this year for Empire. So he can kind of do it all, right? Like he has some light support elements. He's got direct core trooper unit. He's got some combat capabilities. So he really is kind of like a lead from the front type of character, right? He's going to be up there to do his own thing in combat, but also kind of support whatever units are around him. He's also got Bounty and Interrogate. Those are flavor things, as any good ISB agent would. He's going to get his man, right, that he's hunting for, and kind of like solidify that lead from the front roll. Like we said earlier, his weapon's been simplified, so instead of like a flip card, it's just on his unit card with this kind of melee ranged combined range there. And his command cards got tweaked a little bit. His 1-pip Face Me, it is virtually the same, except now it provides Hold the Line, the Hold the Line keyword, which lets him surge to attack and defend while he is engaged. And his 3-pip Ruthless Tactics has been reworked a little bit. If Pagani, you'd like to read the text on that.
Oh.
It's a big block.
Such a treat. This round, each time an allied unit with a face-up order token makes a ranged attack, after that attack is resolved, the defending unit gains 1 observation token. Additionally, until the end of the round, each time an allied unit declares an attack against an enemy unit that has 1 or more observation tokens, the attacking unit may spend 1 of those tokens. If it does, the attack pool gains suppressive. I love this card because it's just sort of like, we've got them pinned, pour it on, right?
Exactly.
And I think that's a great flavor thing here. I also really love Face Me. We kind of skipped past this because with the Immune Pierce melee, like this guy is very tanky in melee. And he can really go toe-to-toe with a lot of these Jedi and hold them up for several rounds if he needs to. So it gives Empire that sort of front line, I can answer a Jedi charging at me type situation where you don't necessarily have to have Vader to do something like that anymore.
Right, and he may not defeat the Jedi, but he's going to hold them up for a while.
Yeah, and he's significantly cheaper in points, right? Like he's, I think, what was it 70, 75 points? 70, I think?
It was something like that, yeah.
That guy's clocking into half the points of most of these Jedi. So if he can hold it for 2 or 3 rounds, like that's probably enough to win you the game by itself. So, or at least win you the engagement, not necessarily the game. So I think that is a very interesting place for Callus now that doesn't really exist, is that very cheap sort of hang out with me and let's talk. And you also get the Interrogate in there as well, right? So like that's, I love it. I love it so much. The flavor here is dripping?
Whoa.
Can I say that? Oozing? I don't know.
Oozing might be better than dripping, but both are not great words. All right, so that wraps up the big remaining rebalances, of course, on the characters. Again, there are some minor changes and tweaks to some of the cards in the document, as well as all the language tweaks as well. So you're going to want to download all of the new print play documents to have all the updated cards for everything that you're going to need to be able to play the game, which is pretty fantastic and a very exciting moment for us because, again, like we mentioned at Mini-Strav in July, there was going to be a process to get to this point. It's been a lot of work internally. We really have to take a moment and super thank everyone who doesn't get to be on camera who made this happen. The amazing graphic design by Ryan, who's been the mastermind behind everything with the new Legion look. Folks within graphic design who busted their butts to be able to get all these cards done within time. Our amazing producers who have worked through the entire globalization, localization process with everything. All the fantastic new art that Preston did. The new amazing sculpts, like it's an entire like team effort that has been many years in the making, and a lot of work at the end. And so we're just really happy to be here. Very excited to finally be providing the entirety of the new edition into your hands right now for free as a print and play document as we roll into those new starters come fall. With that said, though, with every change and addition, with every new relaunch and update, there's some things that don't quite make it on the bus. And so we want to take a moment and talk about that part of it as well to let you all know what you're not going to find in these documents, give you a little insight as to why and moving forward. So with that, let's go ahead and dive into some of the things that will not be appearing in this next phase of Legion. Starting with the DC-15 Phase 1 Heavy Weapon Trooper.
Yeah, I mean, this is one that we talked about previously, right? Like this heavy weapon option is going away because the new clone trooper marksman unit is coming, which is an entire unit of these clones. And so players, if they want to still use their DC-15 Phase 1 trooper minis, they can just use it as a clone trooper marksman.
So it will be an official proxy or replacement for the clone trooper marksman, which are releasing later this year. So that provides obviously a great spot to be able to still utilize those miniatures that you've painted and have in your collections. The next one that has been removed is the JT-12 jetpacks from the ARC Troopers. Pagani, you want to walk us through a little bit about the whys here?
Yeah. So
There's already fast.
yeah, they're already really quick, right? Like they're moving around. They don't really need this. They've got the keywords to do that kind of stuff. That doesn't mean that your miniatures with jetpacks, you gotta throw them away or anything, right? Those are still perfectly fine to use. It's just an upgrade card that we deemed we didn't need anymore, and anywhere that we could trim things that were not particularly impactful or were too impactful, to be honest, but we'll get to those in a minute, we could cut. So this was one of the cards that didn't make it in.
And the idea is they already have scale as well, so the jetpack
they're kind of already
is kind of already
represented.
built into the kit, with the expectation that this card was going to be removed in the final version for the relaunch of the game. Next up, Rebel Pathfinders. So the Rebel Pathfinders as their own unit is going to be going away. You'll notice that Rebel Pathfinders are not in any of the card updates here. For the moment, there are various reasons for this, specifically development-wise. We had many discussions with LFL and our partners there. Everything that we do has to go back through approvals and discussions, and so we want to make sure that the new state of the game reflects and represents the Star Wars lore and mythology as accurately as possible. And Pathfinders were already in a pretty full slot within the Rebel faction itself. So we've decided for the moment, at least, to remove Pathfinders as a unit choice. However, you absolutely can use all of your Rebel Pathfinders as official Rebel Troopers. So if you already have some of those, you can add some diversity into your Rebel Trooper units even more so with your Rebel Pathfinders. Let's move on and talk about, which we discussed a little bit at Adepticon, the generic commander units. So obviously with the customizable commanders coming, there were some significant changes being made here in terms of their units. So Dursum, if you want to walk us through kind of what's happening and where these miniatures can
so
find
this
a
is
home.
just kind of as we said earlier, the custom commanders and operatives that are coming later this year are going to take up some of these existing slots. So the generic Imperial Officer and Rebel Officer unit cards are going away. You can still use those miniatures as the personnel upgrades for the core units in those two factions. For the Separatists, Kraken and Kalani, those are now the names of unique units. They're not a subtitle for the generic Super Tactical Droid unit. So the generic Super Tactical Droid unit is going away. That's going to be replaced by the new custom
Super
one
Tactical
that's
Droid
coming.
Commander.
Yeah, in the future. Sorry.
Mouthful of words.
Mouthful of words. Also, you notice the Clone Commander's on there. The Clone Commander, generic Clone Commander, will be staying as a unit card, so he's not going anywhere. But the Imperial Officer, the Rebel Officer, and the generic Super Tactical Droid will be going away.
All right. And then the last for the units that we're going to talk about, which are not going to be making the transition to the new edition, is Emperor Palpatine and the Imperial Royal Guard are being removed from this next phase of Legion. Again, there's a lot of discussions and reasons that go into this. Some of them are game development and just design space related. Some of them are related to the current state of everything going back through and discussions with our partners at LFL and all of that. But however, these two units will not be making the transition, and there is no official capacity or replacement system for them. So you can always enjoy them on your shelf and as part of your collection as a memory of the foundation of Legion. But for the moment, these units will not be appearing in any of the future releases or in the card packs in general, as we are not bringing them along for this next phase of the game. Okay, and with those, let's move on to the generic upgrades, which are also going to be not appearing in the new print and play documents.
Yeah, there's a handful of upgrades that for various reasons are not going to be part of Legion anymore. So we're just going to talk about these for a second. The first of which, aggressive tactics. So regardless kind of what faction it was taken in, aggressive tactics mathematically was just a little too efficient at delivering surge tokens to units with red defense dice, which substantially increases their durability. And so for this reason, some other balance reasons, we have decided to remove it from the game. Battle meditation and comms relay, these are both getting removed for the same reason. These upgrades were commonly used to kind of cheat orders onto units and kind of bypass a lot of command card restrictions, which could lead to some very unintuitive or unintended kind of gamey feeling interactions. So those are being removed. a Steam leader. It had some unwanted interactions with the new backup mechanic, and it was constricting design space for how that new backup mechanic and Guardian was working in some future designs. And then finally, the refurbished Gaunt droid.
That's my boy.
It was just, the mechanic was a little bit just too efficient, and it was constricting design space. And for that reason, we've decided to, sadly, remove the Gaunt droid.
Look at him. He's just trying to do his job.
He did it too well, and that's the
did.
problem.
He did.
And of course, all of these, with all of these removals, all of these changes, two things, whether they have an official use now or they sadly do not, every decision was made with the utmost care and consideration for the future of the game, how we plan to move forward, what new characters we want to introduce, and of course, making sure that we're proper stewards of the amazing IP that is Star Wars as well. So we all here are hobbyists. We all have many, many miniatures painted on our shelves. We love to play these games. We understand the amount of passion, time, and dedication and effort that go into each and everything that wind up on a gaming table. So trust us when we say we take these decisions very seriously, and we did our utmost best to make sure that we minimized any kind of impact on you all in the community and as players and longstanding veterans of the game. And with that, let's talk about what might be coming for the future.
The future.
Also known as the November 2025 developer update. So important to note, there are no points adjustments to things that are not already listed in the rebalances. So if you already got a points adjustment in November, that was the last points adjustment. So there's nothing new points-wise here. There's several reasons for that. Pagani, I'll let you kind of go through the thoughts behind that, where we are right now in terms of our analysis of the game and where we stand in terms of those kinds of adjustments.
When we launched the start of this update, right, we changed an awful lot of things. We changed mission building. We changed a lot of how battle forces work. We changed a lot of how armies are built and taken and what they need to be doing and that kind of stuff. And we did our best effort to play test all of these things and do everything that we could do. We know that we had some emergency changes to things like ARC troopers and things like that. And we had the last points update that we did. But we still really want to see how this is all going to shake out before we do too many more changes. There's a lot of exploration left to do inside of this version of Legion. There's a lot of things that we have to learn as developers. There's a lot of things that you have to learn as the community and all those different things. So doing changes now without all of the full picture or even close to the full picture would be irresponsible. So we are really pushing to gather more information to see how all of this plays out. We're going to have all of the 5 new updated commanders here. That's going to make hopefully some big waves as we move forward. We're going to have the customizable commanders coming. We're going to have the new starter sets, all those kind of things. And we want to make sure that we understand exactly what's going on in the game before we start making points updates and changes to things. So that is why we have chosen not to do any points updates beyond what was talked about here in this update. That being said, we're going to have sort of a new system thing going here where we're going to talk about what we're watching. Now, that doesn't mean that if it's not on the what we're watching list, it will not receive changes. No, these are just sort of the major things that we are keeping an eye on right now to say that we see you. We see the community talking about these things. We're listening, and we are keeping an eye on the things that you all think are problems, whether that be of too high power level or too low power level, or anything in between. Right?
Yep. And so, again, one of the big things, I think, again, just to reiterate something that we say over and over and over again on every discussion about development, balance updates, points, all of that stuff. Moving too quickly, as Pagani said, can destabilize a game and cause more problems. Every single change has a gigantic ripple effect. The November update with points for many of the clone units that were overperforming is a great example of that. Once those adjustments were made, all of a sudden you saw rebels and separatist armies that were struggling against the oppression of the clone forces and what they were able to bring to the fore shoot up, right? And we've seen a dramatic change in terms of the balance overall in those things. So little things can have dramatic effects. It's very important that we always maintain the fact that we believe very confidently and have tested as thoroughly as possible any change because of that. Looking at the whole aggregate, well, it feels like we've been with these points and with these units for a long time. It's only been slightly over 6 months. And a lot of the great data that we're now diving into came from several of the tournaments and larger events, the GTs, the Worlds Tournament, and those things that have only just concluded. So where we are now, as we show you the watch list, is we're analyzing and looking at all of that data. We're identifying trends, things that we think need adjustment. We're then going to dive into those things, discuss what those adjustments will be, and then we're going to test those things. We're going to test those changes extensively before delivering them. So as Pagani mentioned, when we show you kind of the on the watch list currently, I think are the big community talking points right now, which Tony, if you want to bring those up, it is Riot Troopers, Aqua Droids, and Sleeper Cell. Now, Aqua Droids are very new, and I think the community is still figuring out how they play, how to play around them, what solutions and opportunities there are for them. But we do know that they've come in quite strong, so we are aware and are going to be watching those very closely and analyzing some of the data there. Riot Troopers, we've had this discussion many times. We do believe that they are slightly under. How to go about best adjusting that to make sure that they come out in a great spot and don't cause further problems is something that we are actively working on now. And Rebel Sleeper Cells, I think, is a bit of a mixed bag. We're somewhat undecided currently whether they are just strong or are they too strong. Obviously, when they came out, they're very powerful, but what we often see throughout development is that the new thing is always very powerful if it is strong because it's new. And players haven't quite figured out how to defeat them, those kinds of things. And we've seen their use throughout the tournament data and other things that we've looked at go down from where it started. They're still a mainstay of the current Rebel faction and many of the top tier army builds. So we are watching them overall, but it's possible there will be no change. It's possible a minor change. It's possible it'll be a bigger change. We'll have more to discuss on that as we get to the November update. And then last but not least, and this one doesn't have a picture because we didn't really know how to picture it, we do have the entirety of the Empire faction on our watch list right now. We have been looking at the results, looking at the data even since the November update. We do feel that overall there is something missing within their overall kit and their ability to do stuff. And so we are doing some deep dive analysis on that. However, we're not able to do that in 2 weeks. So, and nor is it something that should be done in 2 weeks, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So with that said, for Empire players out there who are feeling like they're a little bit behind, or maybe they're a lot behind, depending on how your experiences has been, like Pagani said, we do see you. We are of the same mind. We are looking actively at that, and whether that is the upcoming releases, as Pagani points out, the customizable commanders, some of the new releases, whether it is a combination of two or maybe it is just going in, doing some points adjustments, doing some additional adjustments. It's difficult to say right now what that will be, but rest assured that that is something that is actively on our watch list and currently in our live discussions as a development team and everything else. Anything else I missed on that? Anything you just want to throw on the watch list to be crazy? No? All right, fine. X-34 land speeders, I'm putting it on the list. Just because I can. It's live, you can't stop me.
I think they're pretty wild, so let's party.
All right, and with that, everything is going to go live here in about, I would say 5 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, depending on how fast our marketing folks push the button. But that brings us to the end. So the print and play documents of all the updated cards, the whole shebang, the rule book. We didn't mention this, but the recon rules as well for the updated skirmish, which take skirmish from Legion Skirmish to Legion Recon, which is 600 points now. Those are going to be available as well. So everything for the brand new spanking edition of Legion is right there, ready to go for you all online. And of course, the printed products, as we discussed, the new card packs that will update all of the cards with physical printed versions are going to be available in Q3. Those are expected to be around August, but things may change depending on the global situation with shipping, logistics, and all of that. So that is our expected release. So if you can't wait to get physical printed versions of these, that is going to be your time. Until then, you have all the print and play documents. You're ready to go. We can't wait to see what you do with all this. We're very excited to see how games continue to shake out. And then also, as we move forward, to start introducing more and more new and cool things to the solid foundation of the new Legion. And I believe with that, we are done. We will see you next time for the developer update in November, where some of the things on the watch list I'm sure will be
watched
by
thoroughly.
that point, very thoroughly. Yeah.
Potentially addressed, or if not addressed at that time, we will give you an update on where we are internally in terms of our testing and our understanding of it. because again, our goal is to make sure that every change that we make is thoroughly vetted and only adds to the health of the game. It doesn't just change things for change's sake, because that is not what we believe healthy game development does. And we want to make sure that we're always offering the best experience possible. And with that, we want to make sure that every change that we make only leads to a more positive outcome rather than a different outcome. So thank you so much for joining us. There is going to be an article that's posted online that also addresses and summarizes a lot of the points and discussion that we had here. So if you missed something or you want some more clarification, that article will be a great place to go to. Or if you have friends or people in your community who are like, I don't want to listen to these guys jabber for 45 minutes, they can read an article. Of course, we're going to be on a lot of different podcasts, so if you have a favorite community podcast, likely they'll be grilling us over all this stuff, and we'll be providing more insight and information there. And with that, go forth in Legion. Thank you so much for joining us. Can't wait to see you on the next one. Goodbye.
Oh, boy. Okay, that was it. That was it. A little hot mic at the end there when they said we did it. All right, let's go ahead and shut that down. Folks, that was a lot. Okay, so obviously the biggest things were kind of towards the end. Palpatine and Royal Guard are gone, and Pathfinders are gone. I had heard about the Emperor and Royal Guard. I'd heard a rumor that was going away, and find that Pathfinders are also there too. Now, there was a lot of people in chat that were upset about this and that were, just flaming about it. And I understand, of course, especially if you played Palpatine. I play all 4 factions, or 5 if you consider Shadow Collective. So neither one of those changes hurts me too bad. Although Pathfinders definitely does. But it sounded like it was a Lucasfilm thing. They didn't come out and say Lucasfilm is the bad guy here or anything like that, but they were talking about how things like that have to go through approval. They have to go through LFL approval, and that makes sense. It makes perfect sense. So I get that. I get that totally. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about everything. Let's go ahead and get that added, and there we go. All right, let's run through all of those slides again. I'll run through kind of all the main bullet points that they talked about. So to say you're losing Palp and Royal Guard, yeah, you are. I just can't really sugarcoat that. Hold on to those minis though, and I need to do. I've been working on a list of like, what expansions should you buy? Like, what old expansions are worth getting now? What's and both Pathfinders and Rebel, or rather Royal Guard and Emperor Palpatine are going to be on there because like you'll never be able to find those again. I say never, but this is not necessarily true, because this is just for now. Like, they may eventually allow it. Although Palpatine, I don't know if they'll do that exactly. I feel like you might see a different, like Palpatine show up in a different way. There's a couple of ways that he might show up. But I don't know if you can really blame AMG for this, because I'm pretty sure if Fantasy Flight were still in charge, Lucasfilm would do the same thing. Here's my good news, though. If you're a Pathfinder player, I would wager that this has a lot to do with Andor Season 2. We did hit 400. So we're gonna do giveaways. We're gonna do some bonuses. Okay. So I did say we would do a bonus. Do we have any, really quick? Do we have any Star Trek fans? Because I have a spare. Because we are gonna do the Clone Commandos giveaway, but I said if we pass 300, we'd do a bonus. Do we have any Star Trek fans who would be interested in a foil Benjamin Sisko for Star Trek Into the Unknown? Completely different game, but I know some of my viewers are also Star Trek fans. So give me a hashtag. We are still going to do this one, but first for the bonus, we're going to do a foil Sisko, and I'm going to do also a foil Sisko for Patreon as well as the foil Ahsoka Tano on Patreon. So those are both going to go up on Patreon, but I have 2 foil Siskos here with me today, so one of them is going to go out to you guys. So there's 2 of those. So give me a hashtag Star Trek if you are interested in one of these, and then we'll move on to the rest of the giveaways, because we're gonna do quite a few. We're gonna do bonuses. So it's pretty cool stuff. Thank you guys for all the sharing and the views and for hanging out. We're going to do all of these giveaways. All right, so they talked a little bit about how they were highlighting some of these. They talked about the command cards and like with Ahsoka Tano's command card, how like the new Ahsoka Tano command cards specify her specifically versus the other like Ahsoka Tano command cards. So basically, while you might have certain opportunities to run, Luke's command cards that can work for all versions of Luke, not all command cards are going to be accessible to all versions of a character. And that makes sense. I think that's smart. Some will be, but a lot won't. And then they also they hinted about some other things like team-up cards, which is something they may do in the future that require 2 different characters alive and on the board to do. That sounds really fun. I could see Anakin and Ahsoka getting something like that. I could see Anakin and Obi-Wan getting something like that. I could see Luke and Han on Tauntauns getting something like that. There's all kinds of cool... That would be actually a really cool video for team-up cards. I should write that down. I'm going to write that down right now because that's like cool. I'm just going to... I like to do prediction videos. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that one of these. That's a fun idea. But yeah, anyway, like there's so many options. It'd be a fun thing to just speculate over. So that's cool. A lot of rule changes that they talked about. None of them were like super huge, but some of them, again, it depends on how much you want to do stuff. If you love to use area terrain and haven't found it as fulfilling, then maybe this was huge for you. They talked about how area terrain now is going to have like a height, and the area terrain will block line of sight through it. But not necessarily into it. So you can fire into an area terrain. And if you are inside the area terrain, you can see out of the area terrain, which makes area terrain like something you want to enter and get into. That's kind of cool. It's just going to somewhat change how you might want to move, how you might want to set it up. Like you want to have like a little, basically have it to where minis can kind of move into it and stuff like that. So I think that could be interesting. I like that. It's more of a standardized way to kind of run area terrain and make it meaningful. And I think that's fine. They talked about command cards and command hands. We kind of talked about that a little bit. The team ups. Luke Skywalker's I am a Jedi and you serve your master well are going to be restricted to Jedi Luke. So they talked about that a little bit. I wonder if that does mean that Commander Luke will go down in points eventually. I'm not 100% sure. Let's go ahead and pick our winner for the Star Trek cards real quick for the one card. And that is going to be Andrew Lynch. Congratulations, Andrew Lynch. Go ahead and shoot me an email at mailcrabok@gmail.com and we will get you squared away. Make sure you tell me what you won, please. Tell me what you have won, and then I will get that out to you. Let's talk about issuing orders. I don't think they really talked that much about issuing orders. I think that kind of goes into the same thing about like the team-up cards. Movement, slight change that you can now move through the guys in your own unit. If you have, if you're a whole squad, they're not blocking you. You don't have to move around your own troopers if they're in your same unit. Minor change. I don't know if that's ever really been an issue for me. Or not that I can remember. Reverse and strafe are now considered standard moves. I think you're still going to have speed X moves, though. Line of sight, a small clarification about the arms and legs of vehicles that don't block line of sight. Vehicles do, they kind of have that big silhouette that starts at the base and goes up to the head, and that blocks line of sight, which means like ATSTs, you cannot shoot through the legs, but if the leg was sticking out, it wouldn't also block line of sight. And this was more of an issue with the Aqua Droids. So that's a thing that, or in some cases the crabs and stuff. So it's from the base. It's a cylinder from the base that goes up. Again, these are more clarifications than anything else. And then there were some keyword changes. Cache, for example, was specified as working even if the miniature that it was assigned to is defeated. The unit still has the cache. And then self-destruct is no longer an attack. Just does you just roll and it does the damage, so it's not considered an attack for purposes of certain other things. So that's interesting. There were some other things like tow cables having an immobilize, and then small was the keyword small was rewritten. And then we've got these 5 characters. They talked quite a bit about these. They removed a lot of things, and this went into this. They've removed loadout, flawed, and contingency, which you'll see are reflected in these 5 characters, as well as added one step ahead, which you'll see within Lando. But let's talk about Jin first. She's had a lot of changes. She doesn't have danger sense anymore. She's definitely heavily changed. By the way, while I'm talking about Jin, let's go ahead and do our Clone Commando giveaway. Give me a hashtag Commando if you want a chance to enter to win that, and yeah, and we'll get you. We'll get that. Give me a hashtag Commando in the chat, and we'll pick a winner for that in a minute. So I'm going to start talking about Jin. Jin is. She's been changed. She's been reworked quite a bit. She used to have danger sense. She was really hard to kill because of that. But Agile 1 is going to give her, a dodge when she moves. And with independent move, she can get that one for free. So she's going to be able to cancel one hit that way. I feel like she's still going to be slightly more killable this way because, with all of her danger sense, she used to be rolling so many extra dice and also had nimble. So it was, that much was... she's been nerfed a little bit. She's also an operative now. But they talked a little bit about her command cards. Her 1 pip was definitely the one that wasn't hurt the most with the way standby would work. And so they renamed it and reworded it to where basically it now gives her, she can take a suppression, she can interrupt to do a move and then specifically an attack. So instead of just getting, she gains charge and then move, and no, they said that she can interrupt and do a move and an attack. So she still kind of gets to do the same thing. They've just spelled it out for her, which is good because that's an important card. And then they changed her 3 pip, which was kind of her best card. And that one got nerfed, but it gained a little bit of functionality too. So it was kind of a rework. That one basically it would basically make it to where you picked like some dudes, and whoever you issued an order to like couldn't be suppressed. Or panicked or anything like the whole turn. Now it's only while they have a face up, only while they have the face up order, but they can't panic and attack. But they also gain danger sense too during that time, which I think is kind of cool because it increases their survivability. And I suppose when they activate, they could then recover and then do an action as normal. But that does kind of hurt the whole, we're just going to take the objective and you can't stop us no matter what kind of suppression you throw on us. So I think I still view that as sort of a nerf, but it is what it is. All right, we are going to announce the winner for the Clone Commando, and that is going to be Bane 1977. Congratulations, Bane 1977. You won the Clone Commandos card for Star Wars Legion. Congratulations, Bane. We have one more card, and this one is going to be for the Geonosians. This one's going to go in Discord, and I'll upload this one after we're done. This one is going to go into Discord, so everybody else, you have a chance to enter to win that one, even if you didn't win anything else. If you go into our Discord, if you're not already in my Discord, we have different sections. It looks very slimmed down when you first get in. You have to select roles. There's a role selection channel you like. Make sure you like general access. That'll make sure you have access to the giveaway sections and all that. And then any specific games like Star Wars Legion or Armada or X-Wing or Games Workshop or any other things that you're interested in. You get those different roles. It unlocks those channels. Then you can see all the extra content. So this one's going to go out there since we had so many viewers. A bonus giveaway for Discord users. But there'll be basically a giveaways channel, and you just react with a double critical emoji if you want to have a chance to win that. I'll leave that run for a couple of days, so if you're watching this after the fact, then you still have a chance to come back in and get it. So there we go. But yes, but yeah, make sure you tell me what you've won when you're sending me that email too, because I don't want to send you the wrong thing. All right, so that's Jin. Lando has the new card, One Step Ahead, and they've also hinted that other planners may have this ability, so that sounds like a Thrawn or maybe Tarkin also potentially will have stuff like this ability, One Step Ahead. It basically is like when you play a card, Lando plays a card, if our pips match, he gets to give somebody else a speed 1 move. If the pips don't match, then he gets to make then Lando gets to make the speed 1 move. So it gives you some extra stuff for command cards, and there's a little bit of guessing and a little bit of bluffing that goes into that too. So I think of that as kind of a cool keyword. but yeah, so he's getting that. He's got guidance for rebel troopers. He's got allies of convenience, steady, uncanny luck. So, 105 points. Cassian has not been changed as much. It does have equip. So you have to take the A280 now, which is interesting to me because like they gave certain characters their weapons that were optional weapons, like they just like built them into the characters. But in Cassian's case, they didn't. And I wonder if that's like, were they running out of room and a line of text was cheaper than, or like used less real estate than something else? Not sure. Cassian still has danger sense. He's got field commander as an operative now, so he can just become a commander. So, but he starts out as an operative, can take over as a commander. So like that's, that kind of works. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Let's see. Infiltrate. Iden with infiltrate. She now has both of her weapon options, which is really cool. And all right. Sorry about that. No, Iden has both of her weapons on there, which looks good. Infiltrate, nimble, and my dogs are going nuts. Sorry about that, guys. Hold on 1 second. All right, so Iden has a little change there. Also, they changed some of her command cards a little bit. Her tactical strike is down to 2 trooper units, so that's the thing. Agent Callus has an interesting. His weapon now has both the melee and ranged versions built into it. They changed his face me ability to now gives him hold the line. He's got surge to attack and defend when he's engaged. He's got immunity to melee pierce now. And so, between that decent melee weapon, red defense dice with surge for defense and 5 health, and immunity to pierce, he's now suddenly an interesting threat in melee. Might not be that easy to kill. You probably have to disengage and then shoot him. And it's probably the easiest way to deal with that. Yeah, let's see that. Oh god, you guys! I don't know if you guys have been following me for a while. We got a new puppy like a year and a half ago, and I used to pull her up on my lap. She's much too big for that now. Yeah, she is. River, come here. You want to say hi? Come here. Up, sit. Come here. Give me a paw. Can you come sit with? No, she's not gonna. Up. No, she's not in the mood. She's not in the mood to jump up on my lap right now. Okay. Well, anyway, she's cute. I'll post some pictures on Instagram or something later. All right, so let's see. What else were we? So those are those 5 characters. Those were the biggest reworks. Moving on, they are also talking about the stuff that did not make it. The Clone Trooper Marksman. It's just one heavy upgrade. They're all being worked into the Marksman unit. The problem is that one heavy upgrade, you're not going to need that because the Marksman unit itself is going to come with all of them, so it becomes like a proxy or an extra version that you can put in there for old time's sake. The miniature itself is still legal, you just kind of don't need it because it's not like they're going to give you the Clone Trooper Marksman expansion that comes with like less minis than you need. So that one's kind of going away. But they had already said that one. The jetpacks are going away. So ARC Troopers kind of have mobility already, but they're going to lose jump too. The new cards are up, I am reading from the chat. So the new cards are now available. And so once we finish this stream, I'm going to pour through those. There'll probably be another summary video. I'll go over some more of it tomorrow. And we'll do more of that. We're just kind of touching on the highlights. The big thing, again, Pathfinders are gone. They did say they are a legal proxy for Rebel Troopers at this point. So you can physically still run the miniatures in there because they're a legal proxy for them now. I do think that this has a lot to do with Andor Season 2. Andor Season 2 comes out in a week. Andor Season 1 already messed with the Rebel Troopers, or rather the Rebel Pathfinders. See that Rebel Pathfinder in the top left? That's the unit leader. That's the guy, it was sculpted, because I did a lot of research into this. That was sculpted to look just like Melshi, who was a named character in Rogue One, although only mentioned by name one time. was then featured far more prominently in Andor Season 1. And of course, there's a chance that he will return in Andor Season 2. At this point, this kind of warrants him being his own character, but it's hard to do that when you already have him in the game as a nameless character. And so that leads me to think, and plus there were other characters in Rogue One that should have worked in Pathfinders that we didn't get, like that little tiny guy that was the gunner in the transport, and then of course Baze, Malbus, and Chirrut Imwe. So there's a lot more characters that really could work with Pathfinders. So maybe the whole unit just needs to be completely redone. Maybe they also want to incorporate characters from Andor Season 2. I think by the time Andor Season 2 is kind of winding down, we may see a relaunch of Rebel Pathfinders, or maybe they'll have a new name altogether. Maybe they'll be Rogue One, a special unit. Maybe it'll be a hero unit, kind of like the Bad Batch. Maybe it'll be a hero unit in that thing. If they all have names and they're all special characters, maybe we'll get a complete, or, again, he didn't say that they're gone forever. He said they're gone for now. And also this had a lot to do with LFL. He pointed out that they have to run all of these changes through Lucasfilm, and this one didn't make the cut. Doesn't mean that it can't ever show up again, but it does make sense that with Andor Season 2 coming out, you probably want to promote Andor stuff. If any of these characters happen to be in Andor Season 2, it's just like, well, crap, we already have them in the game, and now, come to find out that Pow was actually should have been using a rocket launcher, or Bastan shouldn't have had ion because he hated ion weapons in Andor Season 2, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Again, it's a way to revisit these characters. I think we'll see them again, and we'll probably see them much cooler. Granted, I'll say this, Rebel Pathfinders were extremely awesome if you knew how to use them well. They've given me a lot of headaches in my games of Legion. For those of you who have seen some of my battle reports, they just refuse to die. They hold objectives and they refuse to die, and they refuse and they refuse and they refuse, and it's a pain in the butt. So it'll be interesting to see how they return, especially with the reworks to Jyn and Cassian. Rebels, I think we need a Rogue One battle force. We got so much other stuff from Rogue One. It's an incredibly popular film, and an Andor Season 2 coming out. So that's definitely coming. I think we kind of already saw the writing on the wall with the Imperial officer and the Rebel officer kind of going away, as Kraken and Kalana getting changed, and then the new custom commanders coming in to replace those. That just makes sense. The biggest change of the whole thing, the biggest shock, was Emperor Palpatine and Imperial Royal Guards. I had already heard rumors that these were coming, so I wasn't personally as shocked. But again, you never know if rumors are true or not. And sure enough, this one ended up being true. Palpatine and Royal Guard were apparently not appropriate for a small tabletop skirmish. Again, Legion isn't galactic warfare. If you played Star Wars Rebellion, you're leading an entire war. Palpatine has a place in that game. He's pulling the strings of an entire empire. He's not out there leading 6 stormtrooper units. He's playing big picture stuff. He does send Vader out there to lead small skirmishes from time to time. The Inquisitors make more sense. Palpatine was he's a little too important for this game, and so sometimes, and I've heard stories about how LFL will say, that doesn't fit the role we want to convey for this character. This person wouldn't be doing that. I've heard stories about LFL telling Fantasy Flight at some point, like that when X-Wing was being launched at conventions, they couldn't, photograph like somebody like Darth Vader in Darth Vader costume playing X-Wing, because Darth Vader doesn't play games. Darth Vader can be represented in his Starfighter, but he can't be shown as somebody who would play a game of X-Wing, and all these weird things about how characters are represented. And so, this kind of makes sense to me that Palpatine wouldn't be available in Star Wars Legion anymore. I was actually surprised that he was initially, that he was in the first place, that he was there. I'm also surprised that the Imperial Royal Guard were put in there with him. They seem to make a little bit more sense, but you really don't see them outside of Palpatine. In more recent media, what you see as the big bad guys for the Empire are the Death Troopers. They kind of serve that intermediary, like Imperial Royal Guard don't get sent out on little individual skirmishes either. They're ultra elite. As a matter of fact, in the deleted scenes of Return of the Jedi, the Imperial Royal Guard were ready to strike down Vader before they'd let him into the Emperor's throne room. So there's definitely the possibility of them being like too strong or too elite to be in a small skirmish of Star Wars Legion. And I say small skirmish because even in a 6x3, you know, it's still kind of it's not a galactic skirmish. It's not an entire planetary battle that we're fighting. We're fighting, you know, like a company, a single company worth of troops, you know, fighting against another company, right? We're not fighting, it's not even a full battalion or a brigade or a division. You know, we're using a very small, you know, a company that would be led by like an O3, a captain or something like that, or a lieutenant if you use in naval terms. Again, these are small skirmishes on the bigger scale of things. So I can understand from a licensing perspective why they would have done this. I do hope that they can kind of replace this with a similar character. Now, what do we have coming out? Thrawn, Tarkin, and Tag. How much do you want to bet like Tarkin has something like pulling the strings? Would not surprise me. Entourage with maybe Royal Guard, or not Royal Guard, but maybe Death Troopers or things like that. You also have Dark Troopers too, where that can kind of fit some of that bill. Again, there's, I think between our different leaders that are coming out for the Empire, I think they'll make an impact. I also expect like Thrawn and maybe even Tarkin will have that new keyword that Lando has, one step ahead. They kind of hinted at that. So I think that it's kind of sad for the theme of running Palpatine that you can't quite do the same thing as you know, of course you could. If Tarkin ends up being similar to Palpatine, you could probably always just run Palpatine as a proxy or whatever. Also, let me throw this at you guys. Let me throw this at you. What if Palpatine it does get used in a game of Star Wars Legion? What I'm thinking is a convention game, where you build a very, very big table, more than 6x3, probably 6x6 or something like a big square, and you have people lined up all, you know, and basically you make a big mock-up. This is what I would love to see AMG do something like this, but like a big like Emperor's Throne Room or something like that, a setting where like rebel troops have kind of broken in, they've kind of infiltrated the Death Star, and you have like 4 players in each corner kind of going in, and then like the Emperor's like, you know, surrounded on all sides, kind of like an ultimate epic encounter. I've done things like an ultimate epic Palpatine and stuff like that. So if you want to play Palpatine, you can always run the ultimate epic Palpatine scenario that I have. It's on Crabbok.com. It's perfectly free. You can download it and play around with it if you want. But there's still ways to run Palpatine. But that's a thing to think of. So you could always potentially do that. That's a thought. But I could see that being like a scenario for a convention. Like, hey, what would happen if Palpatine, you know, were surrounded or hit the Imperial Palace on Coruscant, was infiltrated by rebel spies, and then you did like a big battle of everybody versus Palpatine, you know, and he should probably still win. But his power level should probably be higher. And again, he would not lead those small skirmishes. That's my guess of why LFL probably said no Palpatine. But I don't think it's fair to be angry with Atomic Mass Games for this, because if this was FFG, it would have been exactly the same thing. If LFL says no, the answer is no. You know, so yeah. So that's the thing. That's the thing. So I have missed some of your chat, and then aggressive tactics, battle meditation, comms relay, esteemed leader, and the Gonk droid are also did not make it through into the latest stuff. And they're looking at Riot Troopers, Aqua Droids, and the Sleeper Cell for possible changes. I've heard a lot of changes about these 3. There are things that people, like Aqua Droids are too strong, the other guys are maybe too weak. You know, it's funny that the latest units are the ones that have the most impact. That's kind of how things go. Is Lando good now? Maybe. Where do we find the cards? They should all be at atomicmassgames.com. If you go to the Legion, if you go to the latest card packs, they should all be there. And then the physical stuff will also be out. If you want to do print and play, it's available now. All of the physical stuff is coming out later this year. So that's the update, folks. That's everything. We're going to talk more about it. We are going to talk more. There's a tremendous amount to go over. There's a tremendous amount to talk about. I want to do one more giveaway. For you guys. We have done quite a few. Let me see here. Oh, yes. All right, let's do this. This is a range trooper giveaway. So we've got a range trooper card for Star Wars Legion. Lots of giveaways today. A ton. This one will be for the stream. I already said there's going to be one that shows up on Discord after this. Did they change Cad Bane? I didn't mention Cad Bane at all. It's possibly. If you literally just bought Pathfinders yesterday, well, you can run them as Rebel Troopers. You also have some models that are no longer going to be available anymore, so you have a collector's item there. You might want to keep them in the box. It might be worth something. Or just have good fun with them, you know. That's definitely a thing to think about. I have Pathfinders that I had my son Lando paint for me. And I primed them in white, and then he went and just took a paintbrush and went crazy, and then they looked like they were in a paintball fight, and they had splotches of blue and green and red and purple and yellow all over them. And then I put like a black Nuln Oil wash to kind of make it look a little better, and then sealed them. And I said, you know what, we'll keep those forever. But no, we had a good time. That's a fun thing to do, by the way. If you play Legion or any other tabletop game that involves painting, paint with your kids sometime. Give them a model that you're comfortable with them painting, and have some fun with it. Yes, and I know that they said Ahsoka's Xian Mastery is going to be in the new rulebook. I'll be thank you, Turkey Dog. They didn't spoil it in the live stream. I'm sure it's all online now, so we're going to take a look at all of these things. We'll talk more in an upcoming video where we kind of break down everything in a short video. This is the long form video. This is a short video. Oh, I did just say we were about to do that giveaway. I didn't tell you guys what to... give me a hashtag Range Trooper. Hashtag Range Trooper in the chat if you want to win the Range Trooper card. It's basically a super deflect. That makes sense. So yeah, let me know. Also, if you're watching this after the fact, let me know the biggest shockers. Was there something that you were hoping to see changed? I mean, I think the predictions were kind of true in some regards, in that there was the changes weren't that massive. As far as the rules changes, as far as the units not making it, I think that was bigger news. But also we'll have to see how Thrawn, Tarkin, and Tag end up being, if they kind of fill the void that Palpatine has left behind. Even Tarkin seems a little bit too big picture to lead a small skirmish. You know, again, it depends on which books you go to. There was a book that had Palpatine and Vader and a couple of royal guards going down to a planet and just like wreaking havoc on all the wildlife and stuff like that. That was definitely a thing, but doesn't happen often. For Thrawn, it makes a lot more sense, especially if you look at the Battle of Atollon, where he actually led a ground incursion. You know, like that made sense. Tag was a general, so as opposed to an admiral or whatever. So he was, you know, one of the most appropriate to be on the ground, even though he's not quite so well known. But he's somebody who would actually speak up to power, which was pretty cool. But yeah, so like all good choices thematically, except for maybe Tarkin. Although I'm happy to see Tarkin. Yeah, it's gonna be wild. But yeah, the tag team predictions, that one looks fun too. All right, let's go see for Range Troopers. Was Tag ever on screen? I can't remember where I've heard of him. Yes, he was in an episode 4, A New Hope. He was in the Death Star's meeting room where Vader chokes out Admiral Motti. Tag is the one who says, "This station is now the ultimate power in the universe, and I suggest we use it." He also then tells Tarkin, and he goes, "We've analyzed the rebels' attack, and they do have a strategy. They could have found a weakness. Should I prepare your shuttle for evacuation?" And Tarkin's like, "Evacuate in our moment of triumph? I think you underestimate their chances." So Tag was like the only one who actually took the rebels seriously, which gave him tremendous credibility, because he talked about having an evacuation shuttle. So in the canon, he said, "Well, all right, well, screw you, Tarkin. I am getting out of here." So Tag took the evacuation shuttle, survived the Death Star explosion, and then was in the comics post Death Star for this comic run that Marvel did. And this is canon stuff too. This was in the Disney era. Where he was actually outranked Vader for a while, and after Vader was kind of blamed for the loss of the Death Star and stuff, Tag was at least had the foresight to say, "No, I tried to warn Tarkin that the rebels had, a strategy." So he survived, and he kind of went down as one of the smart ones, Yeah. All right. So let's see. Winner for Range Trooper. Let's see. That is going to be Personal Apocalypse. Congratulations, Personal Apocalypse. You won the Range Trooper. Go ahead and shoot me an email at mailcrabbok@gmail.com. and we'll get you squared away. Make sure you tell me what you have won, and I'll get your shipping information, and we'll get these out to you. That is probably going to wrap things up, folks. Don't forget, there's going to be another giveaway in our Discord, and there's 2 on Patreon. So if you guys are interested in supporting the channel, Patreon links are in the description below, as well as the Discord link. I will talk to you guys later. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are amazing and help make this whole channel possible. I will talk to you later. May the Force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other, and always wash your socks.